So, hi, my name is Dr. Melonie Boone, and I am a 25 plus year veteran in the fields of human resources, operations, and global business management. One of my passions has always been education, and so most recently, this past July, I completed my doctorate degree in organizational leadership, and then I also hold a bachelor's of business administration in human resource management from Loyola University of Chicago, a master's of business administration in general management from Florida Metropolitan University, and then a master of jurisprudence in business law and corporate governance from Loyola University Law School. So I'm very happy to be here today.
Wow, that is quite the resume. Thank you so much for outlining all that. It certainly establishes your expertise.
Thank you.
So, the first question I have for you, as you know, my featured topic is inclusive sustainability, and the inspiration for the idea is that sustainability should be for and include everyone. We have to be careful that green teams and sustainability initiatives don't become something only for executives or the elite, and that everyone in an organization is seen as a vital part of successful implementation. And as such, the buy-in and input of everyone is necessary. The key focus here is on green teams, setting them up in a way that they can be productive and effective. And one aspect of this is ensuring green teams have the support and participation of HR. From an HR perspective, what are some of the best practices for employees who want to initiate a grassroots movement, such as starting a green team?
I think that when someone wants to develop like a grassroots green team within their organization, partnering with human resources is going to be very important. But I do recommend that you go to HR with your plan and then make sure your plan is flexible. And so sometimes people might come to HR and just say, like, we should do a green team, now go. And then others will come and say, we should do a green team. Here's the 20 steps that we have to do, and this is how it has to be done. Now go. And one of the challenges with that is, in addition to the daily workload of the individual and the HR team, there's a lot of different factors at play in terms of getting participation and really getting it off the ground. So I think that when you approach HR from a perspective of here's an idea I have, here are some people that I've already talked to who would be interested in helping to lead the initiatives, and here's kind of a rough outline of a plan, and I want to work with you to help develop it. It comes across a little bit easier for that person who might be looking at an inbox of 100 plus emails, plus all the other daily demands of the job.
It's sort of like this balance between coming with a high level generic idea versus coming with something so detailed that there's no flexibility.
Yeah, and
Somewhere
I've
in the
been the
middle.
person on the other side of the desk with like, you want me to do what? Because it's just like, we should do these things. You should do it. And it's like, with in addition to the other millions of things. Okay. So,
So next question is, we all hear that executive buy-in for sustainability is critical. And while that's true, I'm aware of many lower level employees who started green teams under management who was indifferent. And then once those executives saw team bonding and they saw business benefits of a green team, they ended up supporting it. So how can HR involvement fast track executive support?
I think that HR involvement can fast track executive support in a number of ways. One of the first things is you really want an advocate who understands the way the executives think to be on your side. You also want to have that partner to be able to put the business case together because at the end of the day, as you kind of mentioned, they'll buy into it once they see the results. So if you can give them an early snapshot of what those results are going to look like, that's also going to be beneficial. HR may also be able to position you to speak to the right person as your starting point within the executive team. I definitely think you need buy-in, and it's kind of like you said, like you need buy-in at all levels of the organization. So you need buy-in from the executives to get the authorization to move forward, but then you're also going to need buy-in from other members of the company so that you can build the team. And so in partnering with HR on this, you really get to have access just to some of the details and information that you may not know. For example, if you went to HR and there's something going on that maybe they can't share exactly with you, but they can tell you that now is not the right time and maybe we revisit this in 3 to 6 months. That's better than you beelining straight for the CEO's door to pitch your plan to him, not realizing that there are other things going on in the background.
To the next question, I often hear of green teams that consist mostly of the executive team or mostly of the marketing department. What are some best practices, or you could also say maybe mostly of, white college educated people or just some, sort of homogenous group. So what are some best practices for reaching out across departments, language and cultural differences, education levels, and other potential barriers between people in an organization to start a green team?
I think one of the biggest issues that you see is a failure to properly communicate the what's in it for me. And I know that like green teams and sustainability is all about the ways that you can help others, the way you can help your community and the environment. However, individuals want to know how that aligns with them and how it aligns with like their goals and their vision for what sustainability actually means. And so a lot of times you'll see these types of initiatives launched based off of word of mouth. And so if I am an executive and I am passionate about this, and then I talk to other executives about it and they become passionate and then they talk to a couple of other managers that they may feel would be a good fit, then you find yourself in a group that's not very diverse because it's made up of just the leadership team. But if you create a campaign, and I think partnering with departments like marketing and then department heads is also a great way to do this, but create like a recruitment campaign where you kind of communicate the why we're doing it, the value that it's going to add, and honestly, what the employees get out of it. And that getting something out of it doesn't have to be monetary. It can be based off of a good cause, but really having structure around what that's going to look like is going to be beneficial in putting together your communication strategy. So sometimes you'll see people say there's a sign up in the lunchroom for the green team. So sign up today, but then there's no communication on what that means. Like, what is my time commitment? So if I'm a super busy person and I'm managing multiple things and I'm not really sure what the time commitment is going to be, I may want to do it, but I may feel that it would take up too much of my time or I don't have enough time to give. So in that communication strategy, you really want to kind of outline the goals, the objectives, what the company is hoping to achieve by this, and then how people can benefit by partnering with the program.
Would you even consider it a good idea for, let's say, somebody who's interested in setting up a green team is a white 30-year-old woman in the marketing department? And maybe, hopefully, she's aware enough that she has a limited sphere of influence and set of friends within the company. Would it be wise to identify people who are very different from her in education level, race, background, department, etc., and specifically try to engage them in a conversation around this type of topic?
I think that so when I think of diversity and diversifying groups like this, you're absolutely right, where you're looking for diverse ideas, backgrounds, contributions, and things like that. And if I go after someone who is, just like me or has the same education and background, I may not be able to hit that. You also have to be careful though, because you don't want people to feel like they're being, targeted for some reason. And so, what I generally like to do is so if that marketing person has the idea and then they take that idea to HR, part of the communication strategy is going to be like, if we want this diverse team, how do we reach these individuals at all levels? What do we say? How are we delivering that message? And actually, who is delivering the message makes a difference as well. But I do believe before you get into any of that, as the individual who wants to kick this off, you really do want to talk to people across departments to get by, or not just buy-in, but to see what the interest is from different individuals in different groups. And so there's a lot of legwork in my mind, that needs to be done in the beginning, through kind of like research, testing the waters, talking to different people, having those people talk to their peers about it, because you almost want to have a few members of that team, that, a pretty diverse team that's ready to go when you present your plan. Versus presenting your plan as you're the individual and these are all of your ideas, because you also want cross collaboration on just the idea of what this team is going to look like and what are we going to do. And then going back to the goals and objectives again, that should be a collaborative effort. Building green teams is really the same kind of idea. Like, I have a vision for this team, but I need to talk to people across different departments, across different levels, and get their input. So then you're building a program that is going to be interesting to a vast majority of people versus something that's only going to be interesting to you and like your three buddies that you go to lunch with every day.
What would you say would be the top three things to keep in mind when approaching HR?
I think the first thing, um, and this is just coming from being an HR practitioner for so many years, like, HR is extremely busy. And or at least when I was a practitioner, and then my peers that I still have today, like, we genuinely want to engage in the projects that are brought to us, especially things like sustainability. However, sometimes we just don't have the bandwidth. And so when you're coming to HR with your plan, I really do recommend that you have a pretty fleshed out plan before you come to them. And you also want to present it where this is not something that you're just handing over to HR to take over, but, here's the green team, here's the founding committee, which would be a great opportunity to reach across departments and kind of rally the troops around the idea, help build the plan, some recommendations on what the communication strategy would be, and then have the meeting with the HR partner that that you have a good relationship with. If you don't have a good relationship with one, it's really important to have that first introductory meeting and not totally jump down their throat with, here's everything I want to do, but just kind of bounce it as an idea, refine your plan, and then come back and talk to them. So that's the first one, which I know was like three or four components in one. But I think the second thing that I would say is be flexible and be willing to change your plan. Because even if you have a committee of people who are working to help build the preliminary plan with you, it may not align with something that's going on organizationally or a mission that the company has or some project that you don't know about. So just be flexible and willing to change that plan and adapt it, especially as it starts to climb to the decision maker level. You'll find that there are going to be a lot of tweaks and changes, and be open to that. And I say that because earlier in my career, I was not open to much of anything. And so everything was like, this is my plan, this is how it's going to go, and it's going to be great. And I didn't take into consideration, peripheral things that I may not have a full, straight view of that could affect the plan that I'm trying to implement. And then I think the third thing, and this is always my favorite, I think you build something that you can have fun doing. And so don't get too buried in all the logistical stuff and forget to have fun. And that fun can be t-shirts if you have the budget for it, or fun like green team meetings and things like that, just so that you make sure that, green teams and sustainability, it is hard work. And so you want to make sure that people are having fun, building teams, working collaboratively, and really getting to know people across the company that they may not have ever even had a conversation with in the past. And you're now bringing these groups together. So green teams that are diverse have a really good opportunity to build camaraderie and teamwork amongst individuals.
Next question. If someone is trying to make the employee engagement business case for sustainability to upper management, or even to HR, even if they're maybe trying to first convince HR to give them the time of day and be that partner, right?
Yeah.
What sort of data or statistics, because again, I think this is one of those things where, especially working with younger people, I work with a lot of college students on green team initiatives, and they're very
Mhm.
generic. And I'm always going back to them and I'm saying specificity, specificity, specificity. Give me something I can act on. Give me something I can respond to. Give me something I can say yes or no to, instead of just sort of these general ideas. And so I encourage them to make a business case for employee engagement, among other things.
Mhm.
So I think that this is a category where it's a little more tricky to find the data and statistics and buzzwords that really are that work for making that business case versus like, oh, if we change these light bulbs, we're going to save this money. That's a
Yeah.
kind of a no-brainer, right? But
Yeah.
employee engagement, I think, can be a little trickier. So do you have any recommendations? Especially, I would love to especially hear the angle of diversity and inclusion, because this has always been an important topic, but it is a heightened topic lately, as it should be. And so I think being able to put that spin on it just adds additional value to what somebody can do with a green team initiative.
I think that when you look at providing data and facts, it is crucially important when you're making a business case for something. And so I always recommend starting with the research. So what are other companies in your industry doing? And, as you said, there are a lot of things that are kind of like heightened at this present moment. And so companies are putting out information about their sustainability programs and diversity programs and things like that, where maybe a few years ago it would be a little more difficult to find that information. So I say go out and look at what people in your industry are doing, look what people outside of your industry are doing, and then be able to come back with some of those case studies to say, like, this company is doing this, and here's the team, and here's a screenshot of the page that gives examples of their sustainability mission and things like that, because then you're tying what you're trying to do to actions that are already successful in other places, which tends to help. From an employee engagement perspective, I mean, I really look at employee engagement, especially now where a lot of companies are still working virtual and are trying to find any way possible for their employees to stay connected. This is a great opportunity to present this as a way of bridging employees together for a common cause, and a cause that's actually good. So it's not the happy hour on Zoom or anything like that, but it's creating value not just for the company, but also for the communities that the company serves. You also, from an employee engagement perspective, want to talk to your HR partner about, if there was an engagement survey done, was there interest in sustainability programs or the company doing more? Because sometimes you will find questions about that on an engagement survey, and it might be on the to-do list because it was one of those things that people were interested in, but the company just hasn't been able to get to that one yet. And so now you're opening the gate for something that was already on their minds and already initiatives that they wanted to do, and you've just raised your hand and volunteered yourself to help move that forward. And again, with just the diversity aspect of it, having teams that, and so I don't define diversity just as like people of color or women. I look at people's backgrounds, their experiences. You have diversity of thoughts and ideas, and all of these things that are so valuable when you bring them together for programs like this. So you definitely want to make sure that you have a focus on diverse teams, but not at a superficial level where you just want to make sure you have 6 women sitting around the table and only 5 men. Like, you really want to look at people's backgrounds. And, there may be somebody on the janitorial team that has a background that you didn't even know about. And so you want to explore and talk to all people at all levels to see like who can best contribute. And you'll find, I believe, just in my experience, that people are interested. They just may be scared to step up and say something. So if you're going to be on the committee, I call it founding committee, or a pioneer of this group, like, you need to make sure that you have one very extroverted person on that team who is okay with just walking up to anybody or sending somebody a message to hop on a Zoom call that they've never even talked to before, because those are the people who will go out and help you to recruit more diverse team members.
Well, that was awesome. Is there anything else that wasn't covered in my questions that I should include in this blog or in this topic?
Finding passion partners, because you're gonna find people who are extremely passionate about this, and those are the advocates that you want going out to recruit others. And so I feel like when somebody buys into what you're trying to say, or like they're really feeling your story, you can tell by like body language and their interest and them continually asking questions. Those are the individuals that might be on like your pioneering team to build this. It's just the people who are just super excited and just as excited as you are. That doesn't mean that someone who's not as excited can't be on the team at a later date, but I kind of look at this like a startup. And when you go out as a startup and you're trying to pick an advisory team, like you can see the people that just have this glow of like, I'm all in. How can I help you build this thing? And that's what you're going to look for in the beginning or starting team members and committee before you go out and grow it even bigger across the organization.
Yeah, absolutely. And I also, one of the things that I include, in my courses, I have a worksheet, almost like a social and environmental causes inventory. It's just a simple
Hmm.
little survey sheet. And for each of the causes, I ask whether employees are very, very interested in that topic, somewhat interested, or not even aware that it's a thing, right? That it's a problem
Right.
or whatever. And so, and then I ask them to rank them, and there's like 25 issues on this list, and I ask them to rank them in importance. And not that it has to be any sort of like scientific output, but the point of it is that it helps them. Then I'm able to say, okay, well, you did this survey, and you're showing me that you ranked solving hunger issues as your number one priority, but yet when you did your green team pitch and all the things you keep talking about paper recycling. So,
Yeah.
like, do you see? And it's okay. Okay, so if deforestation was number 2 on the list, then okay, great. And paper recycling, of course, is a great thing. I'm not saying don't do it. It's kind of a no-brainer that people might be really annoyed by. So do it. But it's a great way to be able to say, why don't I see any sort of feed the hungry um, initiative because if most people in the organization are saying that's what they're interested in, then you need to be doing something in that realm to get their attention and participation. So I think it's
Right.
similar to what you're saying, is like tap into, well, I actually have this one blog and video that I already did, and I would probably use some of this content to kind of expand on it because it's a really short little blog. I basically say tap into the heartbeat of the organization and
Hmm.
align your initiatives there first, because then you can just give people a little bit of direction and they will take it to heights that you hadn't imagined, because you're just already like you're giving them that little nugget of an encouragement that they were already looking for, versus some sort of initiative like, oh, we're going to install solar panels. That isn't
Right.
enough to most people, right? Like, I'm not saying it's not important, and I'm not saying there aren't some people who wouldn't be into that, but most people aren't really like, that's not really what makes their heart beat. So yeah, I think that's really great. That's a great alignment with the advice that I'm always giving. So I just love having another voice to echo that.